Thank you, Philip. I hope that's for me. We're among friends. I can't hear you, David. Oh, maybe I should.
Sorry, yeah. I was uh, I was trying to press the right button. Stephen, fantastic. Crikey. There's so much content and insight and little stories in what you've just told us. Um, I'm not sure that I've managed to swallow all that, but blimey, I'm going to play that back again and give
Right.
it a second ring, and loads will come out. Um, I don't know where to start. Does any we could spend first of all, from anyone, stick your hand up or just start speaking. There's a small group of us. Anyone got any specific? Have we got two or three questions just on what Stephen's presented before I move on to the little compare and contrast with the big stuff?
I first got like HS2. I'm sorry. Yeah, like it's not just risk to value we need to consider, but also risk to cost. Well, value includes, that is from Chris. Yeah, the risk, when I say it's not the value is the return. So whether we call it value, which is a public sector term, value for money, or return on investment, that's the relationship between the benefits and the cost. So it's both. It's the net of the two. I'm an accountant. I'm not going to forget cost. Yeah.
Victoria's got a hand up. She's very polite.
Thanks.
Hi, Victoria.
Um, Hello. I've seen you present in a few different situations, and I always come away feeling really inspired and then look at my organization and think, I'm going to have to do this by stealth, like
Yeah.
introduce some of these things by stealth. So we're quite immature in our environment. I am trying to drive for maturity. I even mean that at organising the PMO or P3O, as I've started to refer to it, to try and get them to think of, well, what is a portfolio? Why is she keeping banging on about, driving the portfolio thinking? So I guess if I'm taking what you're saying and I'm thinking, what are the two things that I should prioritize introducing by stealth to get people to start to think, this is interesting. I'm going to start to pay more attention to what she's saying.
Yeah. What would the two things be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you say a couple of things. You see, you said by stealth. Now that's a really interesting term because I have to say we did some research back in the day about how portfolios are implemented and sustained, and that's what everyone said. Everywhere where it'd been a success, they said we didn't tell anyone. We did it. We started doing some stuff, and because if you could say we're going to do this and it's going to be portfolio, everyone said, no, no, not having any of
Yeah.
that. Because portfolio management brings transparency. I would first of all say to you, in everything you do, aim for transparency.
Mm-hmm.
People won't want it, but it's really important that we start to make it transparent. I think clearly I would say you start um, with the benefits. What you build a benefits framework for a portfolio. Portfolio just means collection. Whatever
Yeah.
your portfolio is, you start with whatever, and so you've got a common set of benefit categories that all projects should use. You'll have a framework for cost. They can't make it up when it comes to cost, but they can make it up when it comes to benefits. No, we don't want that. So we need to make sure that we're clear what, given the objective, what would the benefits be. I think there are two other things what I would do. So three things. The second thing is you need to work with senior management to give them the information they need to make the decision. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's saying to senior managers, what information do you need? And if it means having a piece of paper and leaving sections blank, at least it reminds people, say, benefits blank. We don't know what they are. That's what I used to do. We used to have it blank, blank, blank. And the ministers would say, why is this blank, Steve? I said, well, it's the CPS. We've asked them for the information. They haven't provided it for 3 months. I said, well, Stephen, could you ask the CPS to come along to our next meeting? And suddenly the information was made available. So we're not trying to hang people out to dry, but if people won't play by the rules, so go softly, engage
Yeah.
senior managers, and I would say, engage the project and program community, bringing them together to identify dependencies, to identify barriers, what's stopping them from delivering. So you're trying to give them something, you're adding value to them, add value to senior
Yeah.
managers. And in the book, I talk about Craig came up with this idea of an experience plan. And so you're saying in 3 months, we'll achieve this, in 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever. And you articulate in a picture form where we're going and what we hope to achieve. What value are we going to add for those two communities? That's what the PMI advise, the senior execs and for the project and program community.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Veronica, do you have a quick question before we
Veronica?
move on to the big stuff?
Hi, just a quick one, thank you. Personally, I'm a head of PMO type level. I've previously had some success getting buy-in to segment the portfolio and to assign different criteria. So far, so
Right.
good. However, that does naturally then lead on to what you alluded to earlier, which is this thing about what is the correct weighting between your strategic, your mandatory, your business ops, your tech, data, all that good stuff. That one's an interesting one that I've never personally had the opportunity to get into. I just wondered if you had any relevant real world experience to flesh that out a little bit more, please.
Well, you highlight, yeah, absolutely a real problem. And Stuart's here, and Stuart is probably the guy you need to have a chat with. I mean, in principle, because the trouble is, you're asking, if you ask the courts say their projects are the most important. You ask the police, they say the police projects are most important. So how do you get people to take a collective approach? Well, what's called socio-technical decision making. Larry Phillips at the London School of Economics, Professor Larry Phillips, has done a lot of research about this. And this is practical research, actually doing it in organizations, bringing the board together in a facilitated group to weight different projects and different objectives, so that we can say, if we've got 100, how much of the £100 goes in category A, how much in category B and C and D and so forth. The PMO can then deal with the investment appraisal of projects within those categories. But I say what's called decision conferencing was Larry Phillips's term. When we published it in Management of Portfolios, one of the reviewers responded, "Stupid name for a made-up technique." My response was, well, just because you haven't heard of it doesn't mean I made it up. No, this is Larry Phillips. And so lots of research about this, say, decision conferencing, pairwise comparisons, AHP. Starting to get technical, but I said there's lots of stuff you can read about that. I say have a word with Stuart, who's got his hand up, and we'll add to the debate. That's Stuart's kind of raison d'etre.
Well, guys, I can see Stuart's got his hand up, and I think we must come back to Stuart and dig into this. But I've got to do a little bit of compare and contrast with the big stuff. And if Stuart's okay, we'll that I think what Stuart's going to maybe raise is going to come up on the way.